Hello, friends, and welcome to La Rosa Reads. I'm Denise La Rosa, and today I will finally get to part 2 of my winter book haul. Let's talk books. So, a while ago, I decided to have a winter book haul video recorded, and that winter book haul was big. So big that in the middle of recording, I was like, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes and split this baby up into 2 parts. So today, we are here to do part 2. First up, I have a classic by a legendary writer who is the one and only Toni Morrison. This is her first novel, The Bluest Eye, that has received such great acclaim. I mean, Miss Toni Morrison is a Nobel Prize winning author. I love her deeply and dearly, not just her literary work, but for what she stood for and what she means to us in the Black community. There are no words that can express just how much she is beloved by all of us. So The Bluest Eye really dives into so many topics that for me as director of DEI, I hold true and near and dear to my heart. These are issues and topics that are continuing to be explored long since this book was written. We're talking about colorism, poverty, adversity, just being sexually abused. So many layers are part of this book, and it really requires being emotionally ready to absorb all of that. And so I think I'm ready to read this book yet again. This is my first personal copy of the book that I purchased a year ago, and we'll see. We'll see when I'm emotionally ready to dive into this one. So the next few books were gifted to me by one of my dear friends, Katie, and the first of those books that I will be discussing with you today in the book haul is Love is a Revolution. I am super excited to read this book by Renee Watson. So this book follows the journey of Nayla, and she runs into this guy that she's crushing on. I don't know if that's the word, the slang term that is hip today, but you get what I'm saying. She has a crush on this guy, and she's kind of into the simpler things in life. You know, they're teenagers, and she's into hanging out at the local creamery, you know, living a life that a teenager would live. Whereas this guy that she's attracted to is really steeped into social justice and activism, and she finds herself pretending to be someone else in order to get this guy's attention. As she falls in love with him and he falls in love with her, she's finding herself in a position where she is really having to keep up this facade and be someone who she really isn't. And I think this is a great coming of age exploration. I mean, all of us have been there, I could imagine. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I can say for me, growing up as a teen, I found myself trying to fit in or, you know, get attention from guys by acting like someone that wasn't really true to who I really truly am. And so this is kind of one of those books that I think is very relatable. I am excited to read it. And here we have Frankly in Love, written by David Yoon. This book is one that is also helping us unpack a lot of challenges that come with having certain identifiers. We have this Asian American guy. I'm going to read back here just to make sure, by the name of Frank Lee. And he has 2 names. There's Frank Lee, his American name, and then there's Sung Min Lee, his Korean name, which no one uses, not even his parents. And so he's grappling with what it means to be an Asian American in America, you know, Korean American here in America, trying to live up to the ideals and expectations of his parents, which are giving him mixed messages. They're wanting him to live and embody the American dream and live as an American. However, when he becomes attracted to a white person, they're like, wait a minute, like, you need to stick to your roots. Like, we want you to marry a Korean person. We want you to marry a Korean woman. We don't want you in this relationship with this white person. And so he leans on a friend to really help him along his journey of navigating what does it mean to be Frank Lee, or Sungmin Lee. I cannot wait to read this book. It sounds like a good one. So Judith Heumann is someone that I know very little about. I know enough about her to be really interested in learning more. As director of DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at a school, it's really important to me that everyone, every member of a school community feels like they can be their true, authentic selves in school, bringing all of who they are to that space, not feeling like they have to leave any part of who they are behind in order to navigate the school experience. And one of the things about diversity, equity, inclusion that I don't want to lose sight of is the identifier of ability, whether it's neurodiversity, mental and emotional health, physical ability or disabilities. It's really important that we give attention to all of the things that make us uniquely who we are. So Judith Heumann has written a memoir with Kristen Joyner titled Being Human, an unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist. I cannot wait to read this book. I want to know her story. I want to know her journey, both as someone living with a disability as well as someone who is fighting for the rights of those individuals who are living with disabilities. As an able-bodied person, I take for granted just in my day-to-day life those things that help me move about the world more easily. And I really try to pause and think from time to time about what would going to the store or walking into this building or getting out of the car, what would that experience be like for someone living with a physical disability? Not just to count my blessings, but to practice empathy. And I think it's important for us to do that across all differences. It's not just about us, it's about us collectively as the human race. So I am late to the A. Marie's book club party with this one. This book is called The Parted Earth. It's a novel by Anjali Enjeti. I hope to goodness that I pronounced her name correctly. This was an A. Marie's book club selection sometime last year in 2021. I ordered it, and this was whenever the shipping and all of that stuff, which actually to this day is still a little slower than what is typical. And I ended up being over a month late receiving the book, so I missed the whole book club discussion and just let it go. However, I think that this book is well worth me taking the time to read all of these months later. The story begins in August 1947. Unrest plagues the streets of New Delhi leading up to the birth of the Muslim-majority nation of Pakistan and the Hindu-majority nation of India. 16-year-old Deepa navigates the changing politics of her home, finding solace in messages of intricate origami from her secret boyfriend, Amir. Soon, Amir flees with his family to Pakistan, and a tragedy forces Deepa to leave the subcontinent forever. The story also begins nearly 7 decades later and half a world away in Atlanta. While grieving both a pregnancy loss and the implosion of her marriage, Deepa's granddaughter, Shan, begins the search for her estranged grandmother, a prickly woman who had no interest in knowing her. When she begins to piece together her family history shattered by the partition, Shan discovers how little she actually knows about her ancestors and what they endured. Okay, this is going to sound a little cheesy, but this kind of reminds me of Encanto. And I really ended up enjoying that Disney movie. And the grandmother was not a very likable character at first. And when we find out more about her as a human being and more about her lived experience, you really have such a deep appreciation for who she is and what she has overcome, and you have empathy for her and compassion for her. And I really appreciate that this book is taking a look at a grandmother who maybe at face value on the outside is prickly, but what got her to be that way? Oftentimes we just judge people and we don't really take the time to ask ourselves why. Why is this person behaving or carrying themselves in this way? So I'm really interested in this. I don't know much about the partition, so I have a feeling that I'm going to find a nonfiction piece to pair with this novel. This one's really awesome. I Am a Feminist, Claiming the F Word in Turbulent Times by Monique Pollock. I love this. So this is a book that I think will appeal to the students. that I work with. I work at an all-girls school, and I really am excited to read this. I believe it's a young adult book, and it says in the back, raise your voice, claim your space. What is feminism? Why does it still matter? I Am a Feminist encourages readers to stand up, speak out, and make gender equality a reality, not just a dream. And while we have come so far, such a long ways when it comes to gender equality, we have a long ways to go. There's also the question of what is gender? What does it mean? And that's something that a lot of us, and for us as a society, we have to really face and ponder and discuss. So that's a lot beyond this book, but for the sake of this book, I think it will be very wonderful to read and maybe even turn into a book club at my school. Oh, the other half of happy. You guys, look at this cover. Doesn't it just make you happy? Like, seriously, who did this cover? I'm going to see who did the jacket illustration. Nadia Hernandez. Shout out to Nadia Hernandez. This book just makes me happy looking at it. This is actually a summer book read for our 5th graders at the school that I work at. So it's interesting. I've got a lot of books connected to work, and my daughter's going to be going into the 5th grade. So how cool. Like, I already have a copy of this book. One half Guatemalan, one half American. When Quijana's Guatemalan cousins move to town, it suddenly feels like her dad is ashamed that she doesn't know more about her family's heritage, even though he stressed the importance of being American her whole life. One half crush, one half buddy. Now it's the start of 7th grade, which means a new school. And so when the character meets Zuri and Jaden, she knows that she's found her people, but she can't help the growing feeling she has for Jaden and the hope that he likes her as more than just a pal. Oh my gosh. So this is like a coming of age, growing up, working through identity, coming into your own, fitting in, learning what it means to belong. This is going to be a gem. I cannot wait to read it. Maybe I'll just wait until this summer and read it with my daughter. So I knew whenever Jenna announced this book as her book selection for whatever month it was in 2021 that I had to have it because I was a dancer, and once a dancer, always a dancer. Any books about dance are going to appeal to me, and the title, the turnout, the ballet references on the cover are just like calling my name. Plus, it's a thriller, so I'm excited about that. So we have these 2 sisters, Dara and Marie Durant, and they've been dancers for as long as they can remember. They have become the founders of the Durant School of Dance. After their parents' death in a tragic accident nearly a dozen years ago, the sisters began running the school together along with Charlie, Dara's husband. All of a sudden, something traumatic, gruesome, and tragic happens. And then that's when the thrill comes in the book. And so it's a little bit of mystery and thriller where we have to solve this murder mystery. And wow, it's been described as the writing having uncanny insight and hypnotic writing. It is a sharp and strange dissection of family ties and sexuality, femininity, and power, and the tale that is both alarming and irresistible. I gotta get to this one. So keeping in the vein with Read with Jenna, apparently I really like Jenna's selections, and I'm cool with that. So Charmaine Wilkerson, this is, I believe, her debut novel, Black Cake. I'm a little bummed that I am not reading this book the month that it's the Read with Jenna selection, but it's all good. I'll get to it when it's meant to be. I am really curious. I think the title and the cover really spoke to me, and I really didn't know anything past that. But once I learned more, I was thinking to myself, I am so glad I got this book. So the matriarch of a family, the family that is featured in this book, really has shaped and formed the future path of her family. And so we're looking at this family through the eyes of the matriarch's choices and seeing how those choices are reflected in the generations to come. So Eleanor Bennett's death leaves behind a puzzling inheritance for her 2 children, Byron and Benny, a traditional Caribbean black cake made from a family recipe with a long history and a voice recording. In her message, Eleanor shares a tumultuous story about a headstrong young swimmer who escapes her island home under suspicion of murder. The heartbreaking tale Eleanor unfolds, the secrets she still holds back, and the mystery of a long-lost child challenge everything the siblings thought they knew about their lineage and themselves. That sounds juicy. Let's do this. And finally, I have a book that I picked up because the book is about someone who had passed away at the time that I felt like I don't really know that much about this figure in American history. And now that she is gone, I really need to take it up on myself to learn more. So my daughters and I went to the bookstore. We grabbed a copy of a children's book about this person. So there is so much to love about this cover. I'm smiling and still kind of laughing because I made a mistake and said Notorious B.I.G. because this is a spin off of the Notorious B.I.G.'s cover where he's got the crown. I just find it really amusing. So Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I did not really take the time to learn about RBG. Once she passed, I really had regrets about that. And so, like I said, my daughters and I immediately went to the bookstore to get this book. I selected this book there's so many books about her. She's actually written memoirs, autobiographies herself, but this one just appealed to me for so many reasons. First of all, it seems entertaining. Look at the cover. But I love the way it lays out her life story. I love the images. I'm someone who loves to see images in memoirs and biographies. Illustrations, so much is going on here that I think will make the reading experience absolutely delightful. We have timelines, and regardless of where you fall politically, I think it's important that you should learn about those key figures in our country and around the world. Those political figures, yes, technically she was not a political figure, but of course the Supreme Court is just... A Supreme Court justice is a political figure, whether they want to be or not. So this is a woman who, regardless of how you feel about her stance on certain issues, legal issues, she was a world changer. She is someone that I think all of our children should learn about, and a lot of young girls will grow to admire her, and a lot of young girls and women admire her right now to this day. So I've had this for quite a while. I have not read it. It looks like a book that I won't have to necessarily sit and read in one sitting. Maybe perhaps I'll explore one chapter every so often. I really love this whole layout of the Supreme Court justices, and gives you a little snippet, little biography on each of them. I just am fascinated by RBG. So maybe at some point I'll dust this off and open it up and read it. Woo! I did it! That was part 2 of my 2-part winter book haul. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if there's any books that you've already read from the book haul that I just shared with you. If there are any books that you're curious about and want to read yourself, let's keep that conversation going in the comments section below. And if you missed my first part of the winter book haul, all you have to do is check out the video right here and let me know what you think of that one too, if there's any books that you like. Until next time, happy reading. Bye.